Okay, everybody, welcome in. As there's gonna be a lot of people pouring in. We have about 100, not about, we have 113 people, 114 people signed up for this. So as people come in, go ahead and mute yourself. If I'm not able to. But please take the poll that I have right here about artificial intelligence. And as well at the same time, I would love to hear, what people are wanting to get out of tonight, because tonight is not a presentation, it's actually more interactive discussion about AI. And the discussion is centered around it's already 2024 now, and Happy New Year, everyone. So being that it's 2024, where's the technology today and where is it going? So far, I see that about 50% are using AI in your daily life, and 50% says you're not. Are you overwhelmed by the amount of AI tools out there? 69% say yes, there are a lot, but 15% don't know, and 50% says no. Do you wish to be part of discussion using AI tools? Because this is just the first of many discussions of utilizing artificial intelligence. And we're making an AI course for healthcare entrepreneurs. Are you interested in having access? So, and most people said yes. So I want to thank everyone for coming in, and we'll get kind of started. But I want to set the stage for everybody really quickly. So for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Cheng Ron, internal medicine physician. And one of the things that I wanted to do was to make doctors and healthcare professionals up to date on where AI is right now. This is part of our mission at my nonprofit, which is the Physician Transformation Institute. And at the Physician Transformation Institute, one of our goals is to really reinvent medicine and change what medicine's like. And so I've been dealing with machine learning and engineering for about the last 8.5 years, almost 9 years now, I guess. And in the last 8.5, 9 years, I noticed that there's a big trend towards initially something called RPA, which is robotic processing automation. So RPA, or robotic processing, is basically all the crazy administrative buttons that you click, and different systems can be already automated by robotics. So a lot of the things that create a lot of burnout amongst healthcare professionals, which is more
I need
bureaucratic
that
than
to
anything
turn this
else,
off. It's
there's already
driving me
systems
crazy.
to improve that as well. So now we just went from RPA, which is robotics, like robots clicking things on the screen and doing things for us. All of a sudden, a year ago, a little over a year ago, we have all of a sudden access to OpenAI.
Turn it
So
on at my living room.
OpenAI is a platform where you can access artificial intelligence engines that is and the most common form that people use right now is ChatGPT. Out of curiosity, who's used ChatGPT? You can put in the chat box. Say yes if you use ChatGPT, no if you haven't used ChatGPT. So if you haven't used ChatGPT, it's basically the easiest ways for you to experience and access of how to use artificial intelligence in every aspect of your life. So artificial intelligence, first of all, let's kind of define it for a second, and exactly what it sounds like is that there's machines that learn from the internet and everything that's available. And the machine itself, right, is designed to learn from something, and that something is called a knowledge base, okay? So whenever I say a knowledge base, it means that the machine is actually learning from it. And the intelligent part of it is that it's going to behave like humans to learn it, and you can inquire the knowledge base. When I say inquire the knowledge base, what I mean is that you can ask, oh, thumbs up here. You can ask the machine to dissect the amount of data to give you something that's more understandable, okay? So that's what's called a large language model, LLM, large language model. So OpenAI is a large language model, and that's what ChatGPT is written on. Some of you may have started using Google. Google Bard, B-A-R-D, is using a large language model called Gemini. Google just revealed the name of the actual model. It's called Gemini. It was revealed, I guess, a week and a half ago, not that long ago. And so there's several large language models, but the one that people are most familiar with right now is OpenAI, which makes ChatGPT. Now, OpenAI is embedded within Microsoft. In fact, there's the AI listening to me right now and dictating all the things I say that I'm using on a Microsoft platform. And afterwards, I'll give you all a summary, right? And so OpenAI is a nonprofit organization, and this nonprofit organization is created to provide access to the large language model that it produced. And Microsoft is now utilizing OpenAI to as the large language model to develop different things. And so those different things belong in the category of artificial intelligence engines, like something like Microsoft Copilot. All right. So it sounds really confusing. Don't worry, I'm actually going to show you how it actually works. Okay. Um, and so if people have an idea that there's a machine or engine out there that's able to understand language, able to dissect it, and we can utilize it to basically do anything that we want, then that's where we're going. So I'm going to give you an example really quickly. So actually, before I do that, does anybody use ChatGPT daily? Curiosity, other than me? If you use ChatGPT daily, I would like to kind of hear from you and understand from you how you're using it daily. Okay. Not daily, then weekly or anything like that. Almost. Hey, Rada, how you doing?
Hi.
Rada, how are you using ChatGPT right now?
I'm using it to revise some of the writing that I do. So
Sorry,
it
let me
could,
just mute some of the participants real quick. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go
yeah.
ahead.
So I use it to either proofread or rewrite some language that I may be using either for some of my schoolwork, like papers that I'm writing, and mostly just for revision and proofreading. And then I've used it to plan out trips. That's a fun one.
Yeah. Cool. So you use it for education, you use it to plan out trips, right?
Right.
For the trip part, like what do you do with it?
So I'm going to go to Mexico City next week. And so I said, I'm going on a 4-day trip to Mexico City. Tell me what I should do and, plan my itinerary with restaurants that are vegetarian friendly. And so it'll spit out all this day 1, day 2, day 3. So it's a nice place to start. And then you can research from there.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So that's one of the ways to actually use ChatGPT is to use it as a tool for organization. However, I'm gonna take this up a notch and say that's just the beginning of it. There's a much bigger aspect to artificial intelligence that can be used, right? In fact, the master of ChatGPT and AI just joined us. Hey, Robbie, how you doing?
I would say master, but I play with it. Yeah, good to join the crew. Excited that so many people are listening in today.
Yeah, so Ravi, so for those of you who don't know Ravi, let me just put this into speaker view real quick. Okay. So Ravi Hariprasad, he's a psychiatrist. He's a great friend of mine, and Ravi Russell's in here too. So Ravi and I have been working on some really cool projects utilizing artificial intelligence in the field of primary care and psychiatry, actually as a tool to tease out people who are at risk for mental health issues, suicidality, and Ravi is the founder of Intuitive Mental Health. And you know, Ravi, we just got started in seeing how people are using artificial intelligence. So Dr. Radha Tamarisa here, my other good friend, she's a gastroenterologist. She says she's been utilizing it, you know, one as an organization tool to plan trips, another one to help with her studies. But Ravi, I'm going to ask you really quickly, how do you think we should be thinking about using something like ChatGPT for ourselves?
Oh, wow, that's a broad question, Chang. But let's step back for a second, right? These GPTs, it was first GPT-1, then GPT-2, and then now we're at GPT-3 and 4, and probably next year we'll get GPT-5. There's been a steady progression in what the capability of these platforms have been over the years. And so it's important to understand, right? Like just for a second here, that these are what they call large language models. And the software itself is actually rather simple. It's a simple application that ingests text and other material and then finds pattern and association with it, and creates what we call a neural network in the way it stores its data. And, you know, like perhaps the most common version of these AIs was autocomplete. You know, you're writing out a sentence and then on your little keyboard on your smartphone, it suggests what the next word should be. And you kind of click on it. And then if you keep clicking, it'll say something. And that was kind of cool. And then they found out that when you gave it a lot of information, more than just, you know, an encyclopedia or a thesaurus, it started to actually get some really interesting emergent phenomena. And by the time we got to GPT-3, which is the free version of ChatGPT that we have access to without paying for the pro subscription, you started feeling like this thing might actually be sentient or conscious. And GPT-3 was trained on some 250 billion pieces of knowledge. Then comes GPT-4, which is the current state-of-the-art model, AI model that we have, and it's trained on 1.75 trillion pieces of knowledge. Basically, we're talking about the sum total of all human knowledge. And when that happened, there was an emergent phenomena where the AI went from being an autocomplete tool and like a neat little thing that could help you do a little bit of work to something far more powerful and far more sophisticated, and starting to rival the intellectual capability of humans with the knowledge base of all of knowledge. And so then it becomes a function of what you want to do with it. So I had to give that little introduction before I talk about this a little bit, because there's the mundane, at some level, using GPT as some sort of a solution for trip planning. It's kind of like a glorified Google search, right? It's better than Google search because it'll format it nicely and give you what you want. But then there's this next level stuff where you can actually have it understand entire conversations with people and have it like tease it apart and understand what's actually going on. And there's even like if we take my field of psychiatry, and the work I'm doing with Chang at the Texas Center for Lifestyle Medicine, we have AI models that are listening to interactions with patients and are able to come up with mental health assessments and do a job that is in a lot of ways superior to what a human could do. And so then you start thinking about how these AI models are pushing us into a future where the price of intelligence is coming down to zero, and what that means and what the implications are particularly for professions such as ours as physicians, where our intellect is kind of what the job is about. I'm not talking about the surgeons and the dentists in the room. They'll probably have some staying power for a little while to come here, but maybe we're measuring years, not decades at this point. So I don't know, Chang, does that kind of it's kind of like an overview, but there's a lot to it.
There's so much to it, but I want to actually show, I want to do the reverse, what I originally did. I want to show people the GPT engines that I actually made for myself. Okay, a little behind the scenes. And this one is specifically using ChatGPT. Now I've made other engines using Microsoft and Google as well, but this is one that's easy to understand. So first of all, for those of you who are just joining, there's a lot of people that just joined. We are looking now at use cases of using ChatGPT. Okay, so I'm going to do a little screen share real quick. Okay, and this is actually some of the GPTs that I have made. Okay, are you all able to see that?
Yes.
Well, what I want to do is to kind of share with you some of the use cases that I have run with this. And one of the more interesting ones is I made a digital clone of myself. So we'll get to that a little bit later on. It behaves like me and knows all about me. And it's it assisted me in business and spirituality and life in general. But before that, I want to start with one thing. So I've been helping run some nonprofit organizational strategies and coming up with material, especially conference material. And so we have generative AI in Medicine Conference Assistant. And so this is one is interesting because what we can do is so this is something that I program within ChatGPT, and I gave it a knowledge base of what we're trying to accomplish in our artificial intelligence conference coming up in just a couple days. And so, so I fed it the conference agenda. I fed it what I wanted to do in terms of providing at the conference. And you know, one of the things easiest to do is, hey, let's prepare a slide deck, an introduction into AI and its potential. And so what I do is I look at something like this, right? This is generative AI medicine conference, slide decks, agendas. This is already based on an entire knowledge base of podcasts that me and Robbie have done. This is trained on a database of some other people's data and podcasts, and we wanted to share this with the world. So I actually gave some slides that are here, you know. And one of the things that we can do, we can use this as a template in the Microsoft AI can actually turn these into slides with pictures and graphics and animations and make things quite beautiful. So we're really accelerating what something like this can really do, right? So this is a really general use of me making a conference, which is happening this Friday here in Houston, Texas, of how to use AI for healthcare professionals, right? And so, so it becomes an assistant. So,
Chang, you might want to just type in real quick, expand slide number 2, include layout and graphics.
expand what, slide number 2?
Yeah, slide 2. Include layout, graphics, and exact text to use.
I'll be respectful of the AI here, but thank you into here. Okay, so what it did is it actually did some expansion here. So slide layout, content, and expansion. And history and evolution of AI, timeline graphics, horizontal, vertical timeline across a slide, text boxes, some visual elements. Oh, this is interesting. Text and milestones, 1950s, the birth of AI, 1960s, early AI programs. This is actually based off a knowledge base that I trained it with Eli.
Mommy delivery.
This is let me mute people really quickly. I don't know who's on. So
Is doing.
So what we want to do is to look at this and say, well, you know, we can get the AI to do anything we wish.
They get on and they
Probably
don't.
what's another one that we can potentially utilize.
AI in medicine, they're giving us over.
Okay. hold on, let me do a mute all command really quickly because there's so much noise in the background right here. So I'm gonna mute y'all until we can. There we go. And then Robbie, you can unmute yourself really quickly. That'd be great. Sorry, a lot of people just came into the Zoom. All right. Robbie, you there?
Yep, here.
Okay, so we now have it now understood what I'm trying to accomplish with this AI discussion. We have it explain slide number 2, right? And then now it's giving text and time and timelines and stuff like that. Is there anything else that we should be utilizing?
Yeah, I would say also then ask it to make a 2-paragraph summary of this slide for the participant handouts. Just to showcase, like, you know.
Yeah, there you go.
So it can basically manipulate this and do anything you want with it, right? And you could turn this into a Shakespearean poem if you wanted to, right? And just
Can't spell Shakespearean.
I can understand what you mean. It's good.
Yeah, there's a Shakespearean poem right there.
Nice.
Kid friendly, so my 9-year-old understands. So now we're seeing the generative AI in action. It's able to look at language levels. It's able to understand what you're trying to accomplish, right? And so now it gave my 9-year-old a really nice poem about artificial intelligence as well. And so if we think about it, this is nice and cute, right? But I think there's a deeper way to really look at it. And let's kind of go back to the GPTs that I have. So that was one for a conference. This is another one for sleep, dental medical education sleep conference that we have. And in fact, this one is actually trained on all the material and the transcripts of all the previous conferences of the Sleep Educational Consortium here in Houston, Texas in March, right? And so now it already knows that the database is all the knowledge of these wonderful doctors that are in these conferences. And now we can inquire the database, meaning that we can ask it to put out anything we want. And so, for example, here, how can we improve event organization on this conference, knowing that it already knows what we've done it before? So this one is looking at targeted marketing, registration process, engaging diverse content, interactive hands-on sessions, et cetera, right? So it's able to know that based on what we've done before, this is how we can make it even better. Another one is, provide a blog to promote this conference. And so because I've already taught it the fundamentals of what the conference is about, here, unlock the future of sleep medicine, join us at the Dental Medical Sleep Conference. And this is the actual blog that's really there, right? And so this is called content generation. And so content generation is really the basics of how you can utilize artificial intelligence and ChatGPT, okay? Now, having said that, how many doctors in here are very confused by CPT codes? Anybody? I am. Okay. Let me put a spotlight on myself right here. So how many, there's some people in here that receive medical care. How many of you are super confused by EOBs, your explanation of benefits, your medical bills and stuff like that, right? Could there potentially be a way to make this all better? Now, for doctors, one of the things that I created is this. This is called a medical practice engine. And the medical practice engine is trained on the 2024 CPT codes that have been released by the American Medical Association. It's trained on policies and procedures of Medicare reimbursement, okay? Why is this important? For those doctors who practice medicine, who utilize insurance, you know it's really not fair for the patients if they get a medical bill because an ICD-10 doesn't cover one of the labs that you sent to Quest or LabCorp or something like that, right? So with this knowledge database, we're able to program in a fundamental database using all the content that was created by the American Medical Association for 2024 CPT changes, ICD-10 changes, right? So one of the things that we're about to launch is something called the Medicare Guide program. Is Stacy in here? Stacy knows a lot about Guide. So Medicare Guide program is a dementia program that's launching in 2024, in February of 2024. And it's actually an alternate payment model where Medicare actually allows us to be reimbursed to train patients, caregivers, and their families how to take care of the patients and also combating mental health issues from a caregiver stress syndrome and stuff like that, right? And so, so I can say, for example, give me a brief synopsis of the Medicare Guide program and how we can get reimbursed for taking care of our patients and their caregivers. So now it's searching the database. It'll say searching my knowledge. See that? And so what it's searching is online, there is a huge PDF with really big words that I do not like to read. And I've updated this into the actual knowledge database, and it's actually combing through that right now. The PDF has about 82 pages, right? And so in the 82 pages, really small text is able to go into it. So what I'm doing is I'm doing an inquiry. I'm inquiring that database and what's going on. You can see here, the Medicare Guiding and Improvement Dementia Experience, which is the GUIDE program launched by Medicare at this time. It's an 8-year volunteer program running from July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2022. And it talks about who's eligible, care delivery models, performance, and stuff like that, right? And so what I've done is I've inquired the database about, what this is, right? And what I can do is I can apply it to my practice. Here's the other cool part. I've already trained this database about my practice. My practice name is called Texas Center for Lifestyle Medicine. My name is Dr. Cheng Ran. This is what I do. So it already knows who I am. So it kind of knows who it's talking to, right? And so one of the things that we do well is we have an entire cognitive care program that we're actually teaching people how to do in January 12th here in Houston. And so the cognitive care program is designed to be around lifestyle modifications, lifestyle changes, and those with those dementia. So I can say something like, how can our program support those with dementia? And one of the things that it's going to understand is that because this knowledge database is based on what I already kind of programmed into it, right? And it already knows what we're capable of, it's going to pull out, here's how you can do it. So let's see what it says. Let's do a DCP dementia care program. We're going to have an interdisciplinary team. We're going to have caregiver education and support, provide education to caregivers. We're going to have guide respite services, et cetera, right? And so I can take any of this, for example, performance metrics and reporting, right? So I can say, what metrics will need to be reported. And it's going to comb through those 88 pages and let me know, okay, because it's trained on it, this is what's really recorded, right? High-risk medications in older adults, quality of life outcome, neurological condition, caregiver burden, et cetera, right? And so what it's doing is it's letting me know as a doctor what I can do, or what are some things that we're going to be looking for our patients for this particular program. Does that make sense? And so Another thing I can ask is how can I use ChatGPT to help me develop this program? Okay. And so now, if we look, it's telling you that, hey, there's Medicare regulations and guidelines, so GPT can assist you in interpreting that. Well, it's already doing it because, well, it's already reading from this knowledge database, right? We can use it to look at ICD-10 codes and billing support. We can do program development and structuring the dementia program. That's great. We can use it to report metrics and et cetera, et cetera. Well, heck, that's awesome. I like number 3. Let's start here. Let's start with number 3. Let's start with number 3. Okay, begin. So what you can do is now you as a healthcare professional can develop this one by one, put it into your database and engine. And as you're doing this, it's always going to be auditing the database, knowing that, hey, this is the Medicare guide program that you're doing, and this is what we can do with the guide program. This is how you kind of set it up, right? And so if you think about the technology, so that's called a database inquiry technology, right? And so aside from just planning certain things or content generation like we did first, this is actually inquire a really large database, say, hey, how can we make our systems and processes better, right? And so the last week, for example, I had a patient who just had triple jaw surgery for the curing of impaired airway syndrome and sleep apnea, right? But the patient wanted to know like what other surgeries and type of different things that are out there. There's actually a whole database that's put out by organizations. So what I did is I just uploaded into it, inquired it, and then here's the actual report that we handed to the patients, right? So that's another way to look at an inquiry database, right?
Well, another interesting while we were on that example of the guide program, right? If you actually put in, either typed it in or gave it a document that had like the number of providers in your clinic, what each person is doing, like, and what the workflows of your clinic are, and what the patient population are, and so on and so forth, then you could ask it specifically to read the information it has in its knowledge about the guide program and explain to you how to create an implementation of that program specifically at my clinic. And then you also want to prompt it to be a master clinical office manager with expertise in implementing advanced payment, alternate payment models in primary care. And so you've been showing a lot of the retrieval aspects, but there's also the analytic and reasoning capabilities of these models that are perhaps more impressive and more useful in getting the work done.
Right, so I typed into the AI, we have 9 providers, 1 psychiatrist, 4 primary care, 2 health coaches, 1 dietitian, 1 outreach coordinator. Explain to me how to create an implementation of this program at my clinic, Texas Center for Lifestyle Medicine. And so now here it is. It gives defining roles for the interdisciplinary team, right? Psychiatrist, primary care, health coaches, dietitian, timing education, conducting training sessions, ensuring the psychiatrists and primary care are up to date, develop a dementia care program, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. And then the next thing is, if this is the program we're creating, please give me the CPT codes and other billing details to give me a sense of how this could work and what the revenue potential is. For a model like this, you have to reference what you mean, right? Like, there you go, boom, got it.
Okay, it put up my favorite CPT code of all time, 99483, cognitive care and assessment, chronic care management, behavioral integration service. This is actually really accurate. It actually has new 2024 variations. So this is learned on the CPT, which is the procedure codes, and what the payment actually is. And it gives us the actual payment, right?
Yep.
$500 per aligned beneficiary per year for guide respite services. And here's the actual revenue model, right? So if you enroll 100 beneficiaries and receive a DCMP of $200, and that's $240,000 for 100 beneficiaries that are here, right? And it even gives a consideration for maximizing revenue, accurate coding, efficient care, beneficiary enrollment, compliance, and documentation. That's pretty good.
Yeah. For me, it's the reasoning and analytic capabilities of the GPT-4 model that are really intriguing, right? We can all look up information and Google search on a bunch of documents and whatnot, but this is something else entirely, right? And now ask it to make a memo to your office manager, explaining to them about the guide program, giving them a rough sketch of how the implementation would look like at our clinic, and requesting a meeting to discuss it. Boom. And then afterwards, ask it to give you an agenda for the meeting to put in the calendar invite.
Here, dear office manager, I'm ready to introduce an exciting opportunity to significantly enhance the services we offer at Texas Center for Lifestyle Medicine. The guide program is a new initiative, et cetera, et cetera. Here's an overview, benefits, preliminary implementation sketch right here, and the next steps. It's pretty good. What do you say afterwards, Robbie?
Thank it, and then request a detailed agenda to add to the calendar invite for the team that will keep the meeting grounded so the work gets done. Translate into one word.
Yeah.
On track. There you go.
I don't want to run out of characters on this demo, but yeah, here we go. Meeting agenda, the guide program, proposed date, et cetera, et cetera. This is pretty detailed. Opening remarks, 5 minutes, introduction to guide program, clinical capabilities, et cetera, et cetera. Training and compliance, billing model.
And it's good because you didn't give it specifics about what you wanted to cover and like how you wanted it or whatnot. It's taking a stab at it, and then you can iterate with it.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Now it's
and just like that, in 5 minutes, you are able to get the guide program off the ground. Next step is the meeting and getting the team together, and you can make handouts and slide decks or whatever you want, and you're on your way. Impressive.
Yep. And so that's an example of data inquiry plus execution, right? So now you can execute your team based on the data that you fed it as well. I actually created one for patients because we have a POTS and dysautonomia program that's booming right now. So I have a guide for POTS and dysautonomia. PTI is our nonprofit. So PTI Agent is operational guide and event planner for Physician Transformation Institute. The life formula is my favorite tool of all time. We'll get there in a second. This is how we accentuate our spirituality and discovery through AI as well. And then we actually have the burnout remedy actually made for medical residents and medical students on how to battle the burnout that they kind of see in healthcare. Rebuilding Healthcare is actually my blog. So it's my blog on LinkedIn. So Rebuilding Healthcare, for those of you who subscribe, thank you. For those of you who haven't yet, find me on LinkedIn and subscribe to it. It's how I utilize thoughts and processes that I keep, and I put it into rebuilding healthcare. I build as a knowledge database from the things that I read, and it's always continuing to be building on the database. And then I put my thoughts and inquiries into it, and actually build blogs because of it. This one I actually made is, so one of the things that I do is clinically, I read quantitative EEG models. And so I look at EEG outputs and amplitudes and stuff like that. I actually have ChatGPT analyze it, incorporating lab data, also incorporating a patient history. So it's able to look at a patient history, lab data. It's able to look at all these different things and come up with an output. In fact, there's startup companies that are doing that right now for dementia. One of them is called U-Method, and U-Method is a company. Stacy, if you're in here, I know you're from U-Method. You can say hey. Hi, Stacy.
Hey, I'm here.
You're here. Hey. So yeah,
Yeah.
U-Method is actually precision medicine. It's AI-based precision medicine. So actually analyzes your patient's data sets from labs to microbiome to methylation to SNP mutations and all the stuff like that, and actually has a very cool output for different disease states. And one of the U-Method's programs that we use on a daily basis is called the Restore You program. And the Restore You program has a cognitive care checklist. You actually build out specific CPT codes for this, right? And anything that is part of a patient data, you can feed the actual AI, and it actually outputs a version for the patients, version for the doctors. If the patient has a dietitian, or put an output for the dietitian. If the patient has a physical therapist, put an output for the physical therapist. So this is where these startup companies are going now. And so we're actually teaching this AI model, not this weekend, but the following weekend, January 11th and 12th, which I'll email out to everyone. It's called a Demystifying Dementia workshop. And a big part of it is analyzing these data sets. So one of the data sets that we analyze that people don't talk about is dental. Dental data set are extraordinarily important when treating and managing dementia. The association with periodontal disease, sleep apnea, and stuff like that, bruxism. And so the reason we're able to tease out that data is because we have the AI engine to analyze it and compile data sets, so we can have an enormous amount of potential in developing these models, like the dementia care model that we have right here. So we can really utilize artificial intelligence to answer the biggest questions in medicine, is linking associations, clinical outputs, and stuff like that, right? And then another thing that I want to show you when it comes to the GPT model is you can actually create your own. Just like I've showed you all these different GPT engines I created, you can create your own. I'm not going to show you how to do it. There's tons of YouTube videos on how you can do it yourself, but play around with it, okay? But please note that this is on the OpenAI ChatGPT platform, the paid version. You have the free version, you can't make any. But a lot of this is shareable. So if y'all want some of what I created, like the 2024 CPT database, I'm sure a lot of people want, I can email that out as well. But there's also other tools that you can utilize. So on the Physician Transformation Institute, we made a public-facing tool for spiritual discovery. So this is our website for our nonprofit. So it's for healthcare professionals. And for those of you who are members, I saw a lot of you just join as members today. Thank you to become a member. And on the members, we have on-demand workshops through AI, through spirituality, relationships. We talk about coaching and all sorts of stuff. And one of the things that we have here is called a life formula. So the life formula is something that I use on a daily basis. And the life formula is actually based on a methodology of sequential questioning called the 5 whys method of root cause analysis. And so the life formula is designed to reduce stress, reduce burnout. Anybody can use it. And it's actually is able to tease out human patterns through a questioning response. So for example, you can say, I had a bad day today, and I am not sure why. And so it's able to go through an entire system of discovery. So I'm sorry to hear you had a bad day. Reflect on your experiences, way to understand. Let's start with the question, what's the first moment today you've noticed you feel unsettled, happy? You know, when I woke up and I realized I had to go to work. Right. And so this is something I'll give you all access to as well. But it's an entire questioning process that we actually go through. And it's based on an engineering output algorithm called the Ishikawa diagram, or the Fishbone diagram. And the Fishbone diagram is basically how we as humans think about certain things that happen, but we have a hard time categorizing it. So when we start categorizing it, and the life formula is really designed for us to tease out the intricacies of our subconscious. It's a lot of it is spiritual and subconscious delivery mechanisms. Okay. And I'll be sharing that with y'all as well. But this is really just a really brief introduction into the power of artificial intelligence. There's so much more. There's so much more that's there. And we spend a day and a half on it this weekend here in Houston. But we go into business and operations. How do you create scripts and strategies for your team to communicate? How do you decrease resentment within your practice? How do you assign roles that is purposeful for the person based on their personality? How do you give your employees a personality assessment to know what their true purpose is, even though they don't know it, right? And how do you create team structures and algorithms so that things are flowing through? How do you give the absolute best care for your patients, right? How do you get the best quality of communication for your patients, as well? And so our ability to do this actually rests in our technology. We even have another piece of technology called Ambience AI that listens to our conversation with the patients, will provide us not just a note, but also provide the patients with a summary. It actually provides insurance companies of a note of what we discussed with the patient and why the patient needed that procedure or needed that service, right? Actually, the AI actually helps us with insurance reimbursement, help us with peer-to-peer consultations with insurance. It actually gives patients' family members an understandable way of what's going on with their family member. If there's a referral, it helps give a referral to, if I'm referring to a dentist for oral health and gum disease because someone has dementia, they'll give them an output there. I'll refer to psychiatry, so I have an output for the psychiatrist. They'll have an output for my dietitian who's going to work with a patient. And so I even have rare diseases that we see with disorders of people who can't break down long-chain fatty acids. They'll give an entire recipe for the dietitian on how to work with the patients specifically for this gene mutation that I've never even heard of before, right? We have all the AI to do this now to allow us to really elevate, our practice of medicine, which is great. And in the end, I mean, the patients benefit, the doctors benefit, the administrators benefit. But one of the biggest aha moments I had is my medical assistants and my scheduling staff. They absolutely love this because they know exactly what happens in the conversation between the doctor and the patient. They also know what to do, because sometimes the doctors we forget to tell our medical administrators that we want to do X, Y, and Z, but it's already captured and the AI already wrote it into here, right? So we're able to go back and see exactly what's done. And it's great for the patients because patients get a summary in the patient portal of, we discussed this, this is your next steps, this is your follow-ups, et cetera, et cetera. Here's the doctor who we referred you to. Here's a summary for your medical disability, right? And here is a summary for your family members, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's probably cut down on our messaging and emails and texts by a good 60% since we started utilizing artificial intelligence technology into the actual practice this year. And so if you think about it from a healthcare administration point of view, it is an absolute gold mine. Now, what about if we think about it from a health tech startup point of view? There's a few people in here. I know y'all are in the health tech startup space. And so one of the things that startup companies want to do is they want to solve the problems for all of healthcare. How do you rebuild healthcare? The biggest misconception in startup companies is this. The biggest misconception is, how can we solve this one problem that's a problem today, rather than think of how do we solve all these problems that may not be a problem anymore once technology and artificial intelligence is already integrated, right? And what Ravi has done, which is nothing short of miraculous, is actually solve that on the mental health front for us and for our practice, is that the AI is able to elevate the things that the medical assistants and the health coaches do by providing documentation and guiding on what things to really tease out from the patients, so we can identify things earlier. And in the first week of deployment, we identified someone who's at high risk for suicidality, which I was not even expecting that at all from this patient, because the patient didn't really have the class.
Yeah, I told you to give me easy patients for the first week, and
Yeah.
he gives me a psychotic, suicidal person as the first patient.
I didn't know that was the case. I didn't know that was the case, but the AI is able to walk through that and tease that out. We're able to get her help really, really fast, We have another patient who had a medication contraindication. What was it? Was it a TBI patient, Robbie?
Yes, seizure disorder, traumatic brain injury patient who is on Wellbutrin, and so that lowers the seizure threshold and should not be used on that patient. And then we're able to identify that he's actually suffering with likely sleep apnea and caffeine toxicity, drinking 5 to 6 cups of coffee daily to deal with the fact that he has untreated apnea. And the AI was able to put all of this together before anyone on our mental health side even saw the patient, which is really impressive, right? The patient completed our AI intake process in 20 minutes, and it collected the information, was able to break it down. And then when the clinician actually saw the patient, they verified the fact that this fellow has bad sleep apnea that he doesn't treat. And so the AI was able to assemble the fact that his seizure disorder, and he's on multiple anticonvulsants, was accelerated by the caffeine and the sleep deprivation. And that if we pull the caffeine and treat the sleep apnea, this guy could come back to life again. And by the way, get rid of the Wellbutrin, which is, impressive for that to be done within 1 hour of referral from a primary care physician, and to get those kind of recommendations out and presented to the supervising psychiatrist, which is me, to review in detail with who did the evaluation, and bang it out very quickly. It's nice. I think it's going to have the potential to transform my profession.
Absolutely. And, we at Texas Center for Lifestyle Medicine, we already spend tons of time with our patients. Our initial patient intake is an hour long, right? And our shortest one is 30 minutes on the follow-up. So we already talk a lot with the patients. So we were pretty surprised when we did get some of the elements of the detail that are here. And the third case, which is the most interesting for me, is the AI picked up domestic violence that we didn't know about, right, Ravi?
Yeah, that was unbelievable.
That was eye-opening.
This was a 30-something-year-old woman who was coming in billed with anxiety disorder to evaluate. And in our AI augmented intake process, it definitely goes into other psychosocial risk factors like domestic violence. And it was able to pick up that she was getting abused, battered at home all these years, and felt like she couldn't tell anyone and couldn't express herself in that way. And the anxiety turns out to actually be post-traumatic stress disorder with nightmares and flashbacks and what have you. And so we were able to put that together and get her some help. Yeah, all in the first week. It's good.
All in the first week, and all in the first few days of deployment of this. And one of the things that I almost got embarrassed about is I have a lot of pride when we see our patients. We spend tons of time with them, mind body medicine, Tai Chi, meditation, you name it. But a lot of this wasn't necessarily teased out. But all this was actually discovered without a mental health provider that's in the mix. This is at the very beginning of the actual intake, right? And Miguel's asking, how do you develop an AI augmented intake? That is a much deeper question. But it's something that we are going to be answering this weekend. So Ravi and I are going to be hosting I'll be hosting. Ravi's going to be my trophy on stage right there. This is the link that's in the chat box. So it's if you go to physiciantransformationinstitute.com, there's an events section. We actually have two AI events. The first one is this weekend, where we go really in depth and deep, and I actually take people to build their own AI engine. So you're literally leaving with your AI bots in your computer. Don't lose your computer. And the second one is the following week, and where we're going to be talking about it's the Demystifying Dementia conference. And that one, we're gonna actually see the AI in action of using AI to build memory loss models in mental health as well as brain health as well. And I'll give the other URL of that one in the chat box as well. And then actually, we do have a third AI conference. That one's in Costa Rica. That one's a lot more fun. There's a few people in here that were up in the previous Costa Rica conference, including Ravi right here. And our Costa Rica conference is actually specifically dedicated to burnouts and spirituality and self-discovery for healthcare professionals. Our conference in May is what brought Ravi and me together. So it's that one only has a couple more spots left, and really invited people to come into that as well. All right, Nida says, can you review how each patient actually received this AI query that enables the physician to pick up things like domestic violence and suicide? And SI, is that suicidal ideation, maybe? Yeah. Is it an audio AI that listens to the patient encounter, or is this assessment done prior to physician interaction at the hospital visit?
Do we have time to discuss it, or is this something we're taking out at the conference?
We're going to talk about it at the conference, but really quickly, it's all the above and more. So it's really quickly. There's ways to enhance the patient, especially with like health coaches and stuff like that. Because if you can get any intake personnel or employee or medical assistant or health coach to really elevate their role within the actual practice, this is how you do it. So really, it's a bit of all the above. And then also another thing is feedback. So we can actually look at the AI technology, the AI output, and actually provide feedback to constantly improve our operations, right? And that's really what you want from the artificial intelligence. You want the artificial intelligence to work with you, how you can be a better you. How can you be a better healthcare professional? How can your team members be elevated? That's the true essence of an AI. So we don't use it as a tool. We use it as knowledge. We use it as mechanisms of improvement, which we'll go over this weekend at our conference as well.
Nice.
Okay, so it's 8:01, and we're probably 1 minute over. I'll take one last question. How do you load the knowledge-based database into ChatGPT? Oh, really easy. If you have a paid account into ChatGPT, on the bottom left, you'll see you can create your own GPT. I'm not going to go through it because there's literally hundreds of YouTube videos on this of you creating your own database and uploading it. It's really, really easy. There's an upload option on the actual database. But I won't take too much time to do that because that information is already out there. So I'm going to close it, not in a few minutes, but I'm willing to take some questions. Anybody has any questions? I'm sure somebody has questions.
No questions, but thank you for putting this on and sharing your information with us, Dr. Ron.
Yeah, no problem. Any virtual attendance on the conference? So the not live, we are recording portions of the actual conference. Well, I'm assuming you're talking about the AI conference. So the recordings will actually be accessible to the members of the Physician Transformation Institute, and welcome you to become a member if you wish, which will be uploaded in the back end. The Demystifying Dementia conference, that one's going to be live streamed as well as in person. And the reason why we're not doing a live stream on the actual AI conference this weekend is because it's literally a workshop, or it's literally a round table. We're actually building our engines live right there and then. And so I think a lot of those things are actionable. It's not very much a lecture style. It's more a very like hardcore engagement style. So I didn't want that to be live streamed because it takes away a lot of the intimacy that's from it as well. Yeah. Chris, thank you very much. I learned something today. Great. Awesome. Yeah, my pleasure. It is my pleasure. Any other questions, comments, final thoughts?
I just added a quick YouTube video that I found that explains the process of creating your own GPT bot. Hopefully it's a good one.
Awesome. Did you copy and paste it into the chat box or anything?
Yeah.
Oh, you did. Okay, cool. Awesome. And then Robbie and you actually have a YouTube video together as well. So awesome. But I hope this stirs some interest. I think I got all the questions. I'm just scrolling through all the different things. Okay, great. Listen, have a wonderful evening, everybody. And if you have any questions about the Restore You engine that I talked about earlier, which is the dementia AI assessment tool that's offered right now through Quest Diagnostics, you can email swturner@umethod.com. It's actually Stacy actually put it into the chat box below as well. So. Oh, Margaret says, is this used a lot in pain medicine? This is perfect for pain medicine, by the way. Rada, where can I see Ravi's link? Oh, Ravi, did you put a link into the chat box? Yeah.
Sorry, I sent it to the wrong person. Who's there?
There he goes. There's that YouTube video.
Yeah. That's just one random YouTube video. When you click on it, they'll probably find another 10 that also explain it. Find one that works for you. But this one said it's a full guide. And it had lots of people who liked it, so it should be okay.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, awesome, everyone. Thanks for being on tonight. Really appreciate your time, taking time out of your busy evening. And Robbie, thank you awesome for being on. I know you just finished seeing patients like I did. And hopefully everyone has a very happy new year. Thank you. Bye-bye now.
See you guys over the weekend. Take care.